Jordan, I'll just do the longest intro ever. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Stokastic.com MLB strategy show. 12-game action Friday, heading into the weekend. Good stuff. Got some NBA action today as well. Kind of unfortunate for us, in the MLB streets, but I guess you tackle both. Josh already did the strategy show. You got NBA live before lock, MLB live before lock tonight. All that good stuff. Interesting slate as well. We'll dig into it. We'll jump right into it. As a matter of fact, Jordan's got to fire one off. So we're going to go on a two-man screen here. Let him, as he said, handle some business. And then we will come back to the solo shots as he returns to his production role at 11 o'clock Eastern time. It's 8 o'clock there, though, on the West Coast, so I totally get it. He probably started drinking his cup of coffee, then threw in a Zyn and went, oh, no. Should have done this earlier. Am I right? Like, is that the process?
I feel like that has to be it.
Gotta be.
So definitely it clicked for me once you said it was 8 his time. I can much more appreciate it. I'm with you.
Everybody who has everybody, don't be embarrassed, dude. I mean, I talk about this stuff freely. I mean, with me, anybody who has ever smoked cigarettes or dipped or vaped and also drank coffee, they understand the process. It is an instant clean out process. A good one at that, by the way. You should try it. Matt, you've tried it.
Oh yeah. I mean, try it. I'm a regular in that field. The only thing I don't love about it is like it's instant, yeah, but you just don't know exactly when it's coming. So like when you start in the show and stuff, and when it comes, it's coming.
I feel like my body is in some sense a fine-tuned machine. I mean,
that's fair. Like, I get it.
Like if I had somewhere to go in the morning, it just would never happen. My body's like, okay, we're not in the normal setting. We'll hold this one in until later, or maybe even tomorrow, and things will get rough. But generally speaking, we're talking like 8:05 Eastern time is when I'm making a quick trip up the steps.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. Fine-tuned machine. It's funny you put it that way because it's true. Yeah.
Anyway, happy to have you guys with us. If you haven't done so yet, take a single second to atone for your sins here this morning. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. If we can get them turned back on. You want to listen in podcast form? Man, listen, podcasts out there, whether it's Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever it is that you want to listen, we got you covered. Across the board. Yeah. Yeah, that's the way it is. But more than anything, subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up. Appreciate you guys, man. We definitely do. All right. Ready to get into this?
I am. I feel like there might be an update to the tools that we're potentially waiting on, or might not come till after the show, but I don't see some things are looking off to me.
Tell me.
Pittsburgh, we've got like a 5 to 5.5 team total, and our tools are showing 4.4. That's going to change a lot. Like, there's no way Pittsburgh against Ryan Feltner in Coors has a 5.3% chance of being the top stack on the board, and the White Sox in Arizona against Ryan Nelson are like right there with them.
Yeah,
I just feel like,
my guess for that, and let me pull it up, is because when I looked earlier, there was no confirmed pitcher for the Pirates yet, and there still isn't.
Okay.
So that's going to do, like, what is...
Yeah, I didn't even realize Colorado is way down there against whatever Pittsburgh's throwing out there. So that will certainly change.
Right. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Like, Luis Ortiz is the wouldn't even say probable. Like, that's where people are projecting for him to be at, or for him to be pitching today. So we'll see. We also don't have a confirmed starter for San Francisco yet. Spencer Howard, the likely option here. So yeah, we'll see where that goes, but the good catch. Definitely doesn't even matter who pitches for Pittsburgh today, because it's not going to be it's not going to be Mitch Keller. It's not going to be Skeens. So what's it really matter at this point, right? So
yeah, and and
Yeah.
everything's going to rise for them because they're pretty cheap, except for a couple guys. So, yeah, I'm with you. Not too important for this show because we're still, 8 hours away from lock. So, just wanted to point it out. That's it.
No, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's not going to be Bailey Falter or any of those guys. So it's got to be.
So, for me, this is what I think it is. Ortiz pitched after an opener last time. So I think that it's like, are they going to do that or are they just going to start Ortiz? But I firmly expect Ortiz to pitch in this game.
It wouldn't be Jones, right? He pitched on the 9th. I mean, it would be 5 days after the start, but I don't think they would do that. No.
The only wrench that could be thrown in here is like they have Marco Gonzalez, Martin Perez on the injured list. I don't know if one of their guys is coming back. I don't think that's it, but who knows?
Yeah. Anyway, we're fine to talk about. This just shouldn't be an issue at all. Looking at pitchers too. I think you like pitching more than I do today. From our first kind of foray into this before we get started on the show. I'm not saying it's bad because you have 12 games and you have some good pitchers on this slate for sure. And Hunter Brown has definitely turned things around. That is probably going to make a considerable difference as far as ownership goes. Like if this was 4th start of the year, Hunter Brown might not be nearly as popular, but he's coming off a really solid start last time out. Prior to that, he was still okay against Minnesota. He was great against Seattle. So after a tumultuous would be an understatement, after a truly brutal start to the season, specifically that one game against Kansas City, but he still wasn't good. He's been a lot better over the last month. So you've got guys like Hunter Brown, you have Freddie Peralta against Cincinnati, and that's going to be your highest owned option for sure. Chris Sale against Tampa Bay. Hunter Green, not the best spot, but not a terrible spot against Milwaukee, and he's got significant strikeout stuff. He's 8,300. And then Luis Castillo got his start pushed back. He would have faced a brilliant matchup in the White Sox yesterday. Instead, today he gets a Texas team that struggled offensively, but doesn't strike out nearly as much. He's pretty popular. So yeah, there are options. It's just, I think there's some warts on some of these guys too. Like Brown, the left-handed Heaney against Seattle. Tariq Skubal's awesome, but he's got that matchup against Houston. That's the weird part about this matchup and really the pitching in general to me.
Yeah, so I'm with you in the sense that we don't have any like Joe Ryans against Oakland here. So there's probably not anyone that looks as good on paper as that or Garrett Crochet against the strikeout heavy Seattle. That said, I like it because we've got really good pitchers in good spots that are getting love. We've got really good pitchers in not good spots who aren't getting love. We've got good, like okay to good pitchers in good spots getting love. And then similarly talented pitchers in difficult spots that aren't getting love. I think we just have a full array of options here, even though I'm with you. I think you can pick warts in every single option on this slate. The one guy that I just don't get why he's owned with these other guys, and this isn't about him as a pitcher because I think he's good. It's just a matchup thing, is Hunter Green. I can't imagine when the dust settles that he's the same owned as Castillo or in the same range as Sale and Peralta. I think those guys look significantly better. Our tools say that as well. Like those 3 guys are the top 3 in our top pitcher tool. That's exactly how I see it. Green is way, way below them. I'm with you on Hunter Brown. He's just too cheap for a good spot. We've read this book before with him. I feel like this is the same story every slate he's on now. Another good spot, still too cheap, wildly in play. I really like the top range, though. Peralta, Sale, and Castillo I'll throw in there. All look very, very good in my eyes. And then, again, there's really good pitchers in tough spots that aren't getting love. Skubal, Reagan, Suarez. Yeah, I kind of like the feel of this slate, just in the sense that there's no, like, clear one way to go, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It is interesting to me. So you think Hunter Green falls?
I do. Like big time, personally. Like Milwaukee's been great. People, I get it. It's a price thing. He's too cheap, but his strikeout stuff hasn't been as high this year as it has in years past. Now he's a better pitcher, so he's not giving up nearly the hard contact. I just don't think people are going to use Green over Hunter Brown, who's $1,000 cheaper, or over the top guys. Maybe I'm completely off here. That's just how I see it.
No, I think you're right. But then then the question becomes like, does this just become if that happens, does this become like a really quality leverage spot? And the reason I say it is because anytime you have a guy that, and you're right, his K rate is down from last year, but it's still 26+%. Like it's still a good mark, right? Anytime you get something like that, does it become like a much better option? Right now, he does not look great because we have him massively negatively leveraged. I mean, most negative leverage on the slate for Hunter Green right now.
Yeah. So like, yes, he would look better from an ownership perspective. And like right now, I don't like him because of that ownership. But even at, let's say, 14% ownership, I think he would just be a play. I don't think he'd be a bad play, but I wouldn't be going out of my way to get to him.
I'm with you. And right now, I'm only getting 7% in my first Sims run. Obviously, we'll update some of this data throughout the day, but yeah, I'm not getting a lot of him in my first run. My two highest exposed pitchers, three really, and they're all in the ballpark of each other. Chris Sale is not one of them. He is fourth, which doesn't actually surprise me all that much at his price point for what it's worth. Right? Like I still think Sale is a great play. But if you take a guess, who do you think my three highest? I'm pretty sure you'll nail this.
Yeah, it's definitely Brown, Peralta, Castillo.
Got it. Yep. And it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I'm with you on Sale. I mean, that's the exact reason. He's just really, really expensive. You know, wildly in play because probably the best right there is the best DFS pitcher on the slate. I personally think Hunter Brown, I mean, again, we've seen this before, so I'm not just flying off the cuff here. In like single entry, higher dollar stuff, he's going to be like 40% owned. People have been playing him at that rate. He's in another good spot. He's too cheap. I really have no arguments with it. I mean, he is way too cheap.
There's no doubt about it. And, you know, you and I even said this after that Kansas City start. Remember, he gave up like 9 runs. He got 1 out or something like that.
Yeah, we've been talking about him for like weeks now. Go ahead.
Well, what I was getting at is I remember us both saying that, you know, even a few starts after that, because we were both recommending him and he kept not performing well. But I think we're somewhat vindicated in recommending him even earlier in the season after some of those bad starts, because we were looking at the underlying numbers and all of the underlying numbers suggested that this guy, all right, he may not be like, nobody's saying he's Zach Wheeler, but also he had been very unlucky. And you look at his xERA, he has a 3.72 xFIP, right? Like the underlying numbers are really good. I remember he had a strand rate of like 30% a few games into the year. It's up to 70 now. He has a 53% ground ball rate. These are all good numbers for Hunter Brown. They're not bad at all. His K rate is 25% on the year. To your point, I don't think you can overstate this. By the way, 10% swinging strike rate, nothing to scoff at either. To your point, he is absolutely underpriced. There is no two ways around him being underpriced. Is the win equity a little bit lower going up against Scooble? Yeah, sure. But how much do you actually care about that? He's been far better over the last month. And this is a guy that should be priced in the same grouping as Hunter Green, or as Green, maybe even more expensive. Like if you told me that Hunter Brown was 86 in this spot and Green was 83, I would totally, I wouldn't be getting to as much, but I would totally get it.
Yeah, it's blasphemous that Hunter Brown is cheaper than Woods Richardson and Tyler Anderson. I mean, that just shouldn't be. Again, doesn't mean like you have to play him because there are other really good pitching options, but he's a good pitcher. Like he's not an ace, as you were saying, but he's a good pitcher who's very good for DFS purposes because he strikes out guys. As you mentioned, striking out 25% of hitters this year. That's actually down. He's got a career 26.3% K rate. Like he's just underpriced. And like the only reason to get away from him is because his ownership. And I guess you could just make the case that spending up on 2 pitchers is completely viable. But like on paper, I think Brown is clearly one of the top pitchers on the slate.
So check this out, right? Over his last 6 starts. So first 7 starts was brutal. for the most part. His last 6 starts, 2.91 ERA, 3.09 xFIP, 61% ground ball rate. Let me get to the advanced here. This new the new Fangraphs is throwing me off, man. They make you like fish around for everything. 28% K rate, 8%, so 20% K minus BB, 0.909 or 0.97 whip. Yeah, these are all just like far, far, far better numbers. Far better numbers for Hunter Brown. 8%
He was
barrel
like,
rate. Go ahead.
he was highly touted, like came up and pitched really well for Houston the past 2 years. Was one of their top pitching prospects. Like, this is not out of nowhere that he's starting to pitch better too. So I think that's just worth mentioning.
Absolutely. He has still struggled with power a bit. Still big, still pretty high home run per 9. With a guy like this, looking at home run per fly ball rate's misleading when you're getting 61% ground balls, you know. But his ISO against lefties and righties is 139 and 151. Really low. Really low. So he's been unlucky there as well. I would argue Hunter Brown's the best pitcher on the slate.
I don't know if I could go that far because I do like the top guys, but I get it. Like, he is, I would say he's probably the best dollar for dollar play on the entire slate.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Now. Yeah,
I'm not saying he's the most talented pitcher on the slate. I'm saying if you're looking at a spot that's just priced wrong, there's no spot that's priced more wrong than $7,200 Hunter Brown.
Against Detroit, I don't think that can be overstated either. Like, Detroit isn't awful like they had been in the years past, but they're not scary. And
they're middle of the road.
Yeah, there's really good hitting weather in a bunch of cities right now. I know it's hot as hell here. I'm sure it's hot as hell in a lot of places. Not really dealing with that at Minute Maid. So I don't know. Yeah, I get it, man. Like, Hunter Brown just, again, here's my question to you though. Like, right now, I think he's like, how owned do you think he should be? I guess I'll just put it that way.
I think at that price point, at home, seeing how he's pitched recently, like if you were to just, if you were to look at the last month and a half of starts from Hunter Brown, I'm saying I think he should be, you know, a low to mid 8K guy in this spot. So 30% ownership, like right below, I would put him right below Freddie Peralta.
Yeah, I don't really care about pitching ownership all that much either, just because it's so much more projectable. And the big swings, obviously, more often than not come from bats. And then we talk about, this is a good shift into Peralta, who I'm a big fan of. You know, elite strikeout upside, one of the best DFS pitchers in baseball. He is not in great form right now. And like, I don't think you avoid him because of that. He still looks like arguably the top pitcher on the slate, but he's a guy that has in the past not been able to get out of his own way. And he's dealing with some of that right now. Past 2 matchups, I know he faced the White Sox, and then his last one was a really good spot. I'm pulling it up right now against, at Detroit. So team we just talked about. He threw a combined 90 pitches in the first inning in those 2 starts, walking guys, you know, just not being able to put hitters away. And again, I really like Peralta, but at such high ownership, like with other really good pitchers today, I think that's just at least worth pointing out that like there is a real floor with Peralta. He got out of that White Sox start fine. He ended up with like 20 fantasy points, but he was teetering. I'm not kidding. He threw 45 pitches in the first inning.
Yeah.
And if he hadn't gotten that last batter in the first, he was out.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
So nuts. And you're not, again, not using him because of that, but he's the highest owned pitcher on a slate with really good pitching options. It's worth talking about.
I think so too. I mean, we know, what start was that against? Who was that against?
The White Sox.
Right. So 2 starts ago. Yeah. Man, last start, he got through 3 1/3 against Detroit, 94 pitches.
Yeah,
Damn.
same exact problems. I mean, he looked the same in both starts. I watched both of them.
Yeah, 5 walks in that last start. I mean, it's still a good. Cincinnati strikes out at a higher clip versus righties than any team not named the Seattle Mariners. You and I both know that, but I do think there's a point to be made there. Let me hit on something real quick though. Sean V, always appreciate you, man, and appreciate the commentary. You cannot rip on Greg and Eric for trashing Munoz yesterday just because he dominated. Can we be fair here? Like, this is a guy that at AAA, at AA, pretty much everywhere he pitched wasn't good. This is a guy that allowed like almost 2 home runs per 9 at the minor league level. Come on. You can't play Monday morning quarterback on a spot like that. Unless you knew something about Rodrigo Munoz that nobody else did. Aside from the fact that he could rack up some strikeouts, what are you seeing to suggest that like Greg and Eric should have been, lauding this guy as the next Chris Sale? Come on. Come on, dude. I'd like to hear it. Either way, who would be your favorite pivot off of Freddie Peralta then?
Definitely Sale. I mean, he's more expensive, but definitely Sale for me. I just think he's better right now. I feel safer with him. I think his upside is just as high, if not higher. I'm not worried about Tampa at all. I will say this, though. All the shit I was just talking about Peralta, I think if you're playing one lineup, the optimal pitching combo is Peralta and Hunter Brown, because Peralta's too cheap. I just mentioned all his struggles. Aside from that start against Detroit, he's still been really good with upper 20 fantasy points in the 3 starts before that. So yeah, I still like Peralta a lot here. I don't think he's a lock like the field does. I'm a little bit surprised at that ownership, and Sale would be the guy for me. I think you can make a case for Skubal at ownership. Not a good spot. Houston doesn't strike out. No Kyle Tucker, obviously really weakens their lineup. It's just a lack of strikeout upside for Skubal for me, which is why I'll lean Sale. How about you?
It would have to be Sale. Yeah. But I'm talking about guys that are getting you like legitimate leverage in spots like this. I mean, here's one for you. Here's one that we haven't talked about. That's getting essentially no ownership. The Phillies are without Real Muto. They still have no Trey Turner. They still have no Brandon Marsh. There was something yesterday. I had made some over bets, like innings pitch bets and stuff. I'm sorry. It was actually the underdog video I did, the fantasy points on Houck, because the guy gets such an insane amount of ground balls that who cares about the wind blowing out to left field at Fenway and the fact that it's hot. Like, he doesn't give up power. He's allowed 2 homers on the entirety of the season, which is just nuts. Well, I mean, Bradish gets 53% ground balls. Have you seen his K rate in the 7 starts he's made this season? Have you seen his K rate?
Yeah, he is so 34%. He is unreal. I'm so with you here. Like,
dude,
here's the thing though, before you go on, I don't see much of a difference on this slate between Raggins, Bradish, and Ranger Suarez. Go ahead.
Let's see. Okay, so I see a huge difference, but I have Ranger Suarez far below Bradish, personally. I mean, the Baltimore Orioles against left-handed pitching, and I think Suarez is good. I do. I don't think Suarez is as good as he's been, because he's not. It's a very fair thing to say. How'd Nola do yesterday? I'm just kidding.
I was thinking about that when I saw that.
Baltimore has Baltimore has a 127 WRC plus against lefties. The 198 ISO. It's not just the highest in the league. It's ridiculously high. I mean, insane. You want a bad matchup for Suarez? Yes, Baltimore strikes out at a decent enough clip. I think it's like top 10 in the league versus lefties. It's 7th. But this team is an absolute nightmare for southpaws. The Dodgers have the highest WRC plus in baseball versus lefties this season at 132. They're second in ISO. They strike out collectively at a 19% clip. So when I look at Reagan's against the Dodgers, I look at Suarez against this this Baltimore team. I personally do think, and don't get me wrong, Bradish will still have to deal with Schwarber, but there's strikeouts there. He'll still have to deal with Harper. It isn't to say that this is just a walk me over matchup. I'm not saying that at all. Philly is very good against righties, but I still think this is the spot. If I'm going to one, like personally, if I'm going to one of the 9K guys that isn't Peralta, Bradish, to me, this is just a straight play on skill against the Phillies lineup that is not what it was.
I totally get it. My pushback just on it a little bit would be I'd lump them all together because I think they're all really good pitchers in tougher spots. I'm with you. I think Bradish of the bunch is in the best spot, but still a low floor for any team going up against Philly with the middle of their lineup, even though it is a little bit watered down right now. But my biggest thing and why I think they're closer together than you do, Bradish hasn't thrown more than 90 pitches in any start this year. Does he have the same pitch equity that Ragans and Suarez does if they're all pitching well?
Well, let's look. Let's look.
But even still, I'm with you. I think Bradish looks really good at that ownership because he's been phenomenal this year. I mean, you look at his underlying numbers, you can make the case he's been a top 3 pitcher in baseball.
He threw 103 pitches 3 starts ago, by the way.
Yeah, I missed that. So that's my bad. And now, yeah, they were kind of easing him back. But yeah, you're right. I didn't even see that. My fault.
I think he's good. Like last game, 6 innings, 88 pitches. Could they have brought him out for one more? I suppose, but you don't really need to there. But yeah, okay, so this guy goes 5 innings at 81 pitches or 6 innings at 81 pitches, whatever. He's coming back out for another one for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. Completely ignore that. That's my fault.
He did get trashed against Tampa Bay, but aside from that, he's been stellar. This is just, I mean, play this as you will. You guys make your own decisions. But for me, Bradish would be the one guy where it's like, all right, if he's really going to be 7% owned, guy has a 34% strikeout rate, there's some meat on that bone.
Yeah, there's a lot of meat on that bone. It's a good way to put it. I also think we haven't really talked about him too much, but Castillo looks damn good here too. Again, not nearly as good of a spot as he would have been last night, but Texas certainly isn't as scary as they were for parts of last year. Now, I think Josh Young might be back tonight, which again is a righty who can strike out, so it helps Castillo, but also another big bat to add to this Texas lineup. We'll see if Seager plays. Would obviously be a big boon to Castillo if he doesn't. But yeah, that's kind of why I think this slate is full of really, really, I don't want to say all good, but intriguing pitching options.
It's true. You're right. Some weather to be concerned about too. Like keep a close watch on this Philly-Baltimore game. Mets. I'm in the Northeast. I know we're supposed to get tagged with some pretty heavy storms coming up later today, like late afternoon, early evening. Pittsburgh, Colorado, all of these spots. So yeah, just watch out for that. But it's still early. There's only so much we can say about that. You have to pay attention to that for yourself for sure. A lot of conversation in chat about Waldron. Look, I've been on Waldron for a while now. I like this guy. If you had looked like a few weeks ago at everything, you start going, oh, wait a second, there might be something here. He's a knuckleballer for those of you guys who are unfamiliar with him. Pretty nasty knuckleballer too. I think they clocked it at like 1.5. I think it made, you guys had to look this up. It was crazy. I think it was like, it made 1 revolution, the ball in his knuckler from the time it leaves his hand to the time it gets to the plate.
That's insane.
I know. Hold on. I wish I could find it because it's sick. Yeah. 64 RPMs. That's revolutions per minute. So
I don't even understand like the physics behind that.
no. Either way, it's pretty awesome. Oh no, actually, Waldron's 276 RPM, which is still crazy. It's 2 revolutions of the ball between his release point and the plate. R.A. Dickey was 150 RPM per minute, which was 1.5 revolutions per between release and the plate, which is just ridiculous. Truly crazy. The only thing I worry about is like, as you start to see this knuckleball more, you start to get less swings and misses. You know, he was racking up strikeouts and then he had back-to-back 4 strikeout games. Granted, 2 teams that don't strike out as much. Now you've got the Mets at Citi Field. What do you make of a guy like Waldron? I don't mind him, but that price point's a little bit scary to me.
It's just not the slate for Waldron. We've been on him a bunch recently. We've seen him with Hunter Brown a lot paired together. And it's just not the slate for him. He is priced up in a not great spot. The Mets don't strike out a lot. You've got weather on top of that. So for me, he's just not really a guy I'm looking at. I completely appreciate how well he's pitched. Used him a bunch in his last however many starts. I know he's had some really good matchups in there. It's just not the slate for it in my eyes. I mean, he's 200 away from Luis Castillo, or a few hundred away from Castillo. There's a bunch of really good pitchers on this slate. He falls into the group of like good pitchers in tougher spots that aren't getting love. So like as a pivot off of Hunter Brown, I get it. It's just not for me.
What other spots are you looking at pitcher?
Not many. I mean, I feel like the guys we talked about are really the guys to hone in on. Like, I don't need to get super weird with my pitchers here. Like Sale, Peralta. I like the Bradish call a lot. Luis Castillo, Hunter Brown. Like right now, I think that's like the pool I want to work with. And I think that's perfectly reasonable. How about you?
Pretty much. I mean, I'm not in love with Gossman or I mean, any of those guys at the bottom. Ranger Suarez to me is, if I get burnt because I didn't play Suarez against a team that just absolutely trashes lefties, then I'm okay with it.
At full price for Suarez too.
Correct. Yeah, he's almost 10K. Right. He's almost 10K. I would say, yeah, it's Brown, Peralta, Sale. I think Heaney's fine. I don't love Heaney, but I think he's fine.
Heaney's just insert pitcher against Seattle here.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's what it is. I prefer the righties against Seattle, but I can live with it. Scooble always is just like a high end, pay up to be contrarian type spot here. Don't hate that because he's just electric. He's incredible. 96 Ks and 79 innings. But my favorite, like high priced, low owned pivot is Kyle Bradish.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I really like that call out by you. I just think how well he's pitched. And I also like how you broke it down in terms of, yeah, it's not a good matchup against Philly, but you look at the other pitchers in his range, it's the best of the bunch between Ragans, Suarez, and Bradish. With you.
Yeah. Yeah, guy's pretty good. Pretty good. Although I do wonder if this is a sustainable strikeout, a strikeout rate. His swinging strike rate's at like 10%.
Yeah, not sure. I think there's certainly question marks baked in here, but I think that goes into the low ownership part of it.
Yes, that's a good point. Right. Like if he just keeps this up, I think it was Josh that said something the other day. I can't remember who it was, but basically like just because somebody's running cold or running hot and we know that they're running cold or running hot doesn't mean that they're going to stop running hot or cold
Right.
start just because
right.
Just because they're supposed to come back to the mean. But yeah, all of his expected rates look fantastic for Bradish across the board. He's good. He's good. Is that all you got for pitching?
Yeah, that's all I got. I don't really see the need to get too crazy with it.
Einsteinium, I thought Baltimore was good against righties, not lefties. No, dude. I mean, maybe they're probably still really good against righties too.
Yeah, they're good against both.
Let's see. Baltimore. Yeah, still good against righties, but against lefties, they're truly dominant.
Yeah, I had that mixed up last week too. I remember you corrected that for me, so I won't forget that again. They really stand out against lefties. They're great against righties too, but they've been phenomenal against lefties.
198 ISO versus lefties. Outrageous. It's outrageous. For a team to have like a 200 ISO against whatever hand in this,
That's nuts.
it's so crazy. I bet if you went to, hold on, let me go to player stats, Baltimore, lefties. They must have, thinking like 5 guys that are just crushing. All right, here you go, Matt. Ready?
Do you have it pulled up?
Yeah. Here we go. Okay, so. All right. Gunnar Henderson, 284. Rutschman, 267. Santander, 214. Mountcastle, 209. Like Westberg, 186 ISO. It's just across the board. They have these guys that are. Oh, Mateo.
Jorge Mateo.
Jorge Mateo, 314 ISO.
Yeah, Mountcastle. Yeah.
Crazy. Anyway, but makes me almost want to stack Baltimore today.
Yeah, probably a little too out there for me, but seen crazier shit happen.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Suarez is legit. Suarez is definitely legit. It's really just kind of, to me, it feels like a stay away in both spots, you know?
Because they're both really priced up too. It's not one of these situations where each side has a ton of upside and they're both cheap. Like Ranger Suarez is almost 10K and Baltimore is the lowest value stack on the entire slate. Less than 1% chance of being the top value stack.
For sure. They're also third least homer friendly park for right-handed bats.
Yeah, that's the other big thing about picking on lefties in Baltimore. That park now really doesn't play up to right-handed power at all.
No, not at all. All right. You guys, I was trying to see if Chad had any other arms. Toga said, love Bradish, just hate it against the Phillies. They don't strike out as much. Yeah, it's true. But for what it's worth, Toga, that's why he's getting no ownership, right? Like if Bradish was facing the Reds today, guy would be 30% owned at that price point. So, you have to take it. You have to take what you have. Yeah. Anyway. Einsteinian Park plays up lefty power, but it's a lefty on lefty matchup. Yeah, I mean, right. And I hear you. Einstein, do the Dodgers strike out enough to make Reagan sneaky? That's what Matt and I were talking about. They actually have a lower K rate than I thought against lefties. It's 19%.
Yeah.
I think if you factored in ISO, WOBA, WRC plus, and strikeout rate, they're just as tough a matchup as Baltimore for lefties this season, at least.
Yeah, you could argue they're even tougher just because of how deep their lineup is and the top of their lineup, how good it is. Yeah, I think that even with that said, like Reagan's looks good from a leverage perspective. He still has a 11% chance of being a top 2 pitcher on this slate and only 3% ownership, but you got to know what you're getting into bed with choosing any pitcher against the Dodgers. Like even the Dodgers with how good Reagan's is like you look at the top stack tool, teams like Houston, Philly, Baltimore, like they're in the bottom half. The Dodgers are still 4th overall, even against Reagan's right now. I know that will change with Pittsburgh and stuff, but
Right.
I think that tells the whole story of how good the Dodgers are.
No doubt about it. And you look at like some of the K rates, they've got a few guys that are up there, but I mean, Muncy strikes out a lot. That'd be a lefty spot. He's not going to be in the lineup anyway. I'm thinking like who, so Taylor's striking out a lot against lefties. Who else? Pages, I guess.
Yeah, I guess he strikes out. He's also got power from the right side, so he's not like an easy out by any means.
Like Rojas has assuming he's in the lineup, 3% K rate versus lefties. Betts is 7%. Wow. Yeah. Will Smith is 12%. Freeman is 16%. Enrique Hernandez is 17%. So that's what, five guys with like 17 or lower percent K rates.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about like Ragans here, if this were a slate where we were seeing like monster ownership on the Yankees or like one of the teams from yesterday or whoever it was, then I'd be more interested in just getting different with pitching if I wanted to play those really chalky offenses. But we don't even have that today. There's only one offense projected to be double-digit owned, and that's the Diamondbacks at exactly 10%. So I just don't really think you need to play those ownership games like you would on many other slates.
Agreed. Let's talk about some bats. And by the way, guys, you know where to find the links in the description and in chat. You ever want to get in on the tools, the Sims tool. Jordan, we'll be recording the Hall of Fame segment. A bunch of other big wins rocking the avatar. Some with the new avatars as well, which is very nice. Yeah, you love to see it, man. Because look, you could either win a free month of The Sims, just go to stokastic.com/HOF, download one of those sweet avatars, use it wherever it is you play, finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and tweet us your wins at Stokastic HOF. It's that simple. Say something nice as well. We appreciate it. But the way we've set up the Hall of Fame now is first win. Think about this for a second. Where else are you getting rewarded just to play and win playing DFS for free? First win, free month of single sports sim. So like you want a full month of MLB sims plus every MLB tool that we have on the site. Second one, you get another free month plus a free week of another sport. So like, oh, let me get MMA or something like that. Third one, you get a free month of all access sims. So every single sport. And then a 20K plus win, you get into the Ring of Honor. We get you a custom Stokastic ring with your name on it, Hall of Fame, Ring of Honor, and then an engraved display case. Pretty cool stuff. I got some of them ordered already. They take a little while to get here, but they're pretty neat. Just use one of those avatars, stokastic.com/HOF. Use it wherever it is you play. Hit us up when you win. Doesn't matter if it's a quarter entry. As long as you're finishing top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. You're not going to find a better program out there for an avatar than you will with us. I guarantee that much. Plus, why not be part of the team? But you just want the tools themselves. You could do a week or a month, any sport you want. It's in the description, or you could do every sport, depending on what you're working with. Lineup generator, less than $15 a week. You're going to build better lineups. You're going to win more. It's that simple. If you have any questions, hit us up. Happy to answer them. And when you do sign up, jump in the Discord, say hello. Looking at the bats for today, just looking at all of these stacks, there are a few that jump off, but for the most part, Matt, it's really, really flat.
It's crazy flat. I do expect both Pittsburgh and Colorado to jump up, and not only their top stack percentage, but also their ownership, because I don't know what's up with the tools of those two teams. I think it's what you said with like the Luis Ortiz shenanigans. Pittsburgh is like pretty cheap here comparatively. Yesterday they led off with Brian Hayes. He is 4,200 here. O'Neal Cruz is 4,900. So not cheap, but like there's 5-6 other players at each of their positions who are more expensive. I think the most expensive outfielder is Brian Reynolds at 4,900 also. 4,700. Like they don't even have anyone over 5K in their stack. I don't like they're going to be popular. Their top stack percentage is going to go up. That at least is how I see it.
No, for sure. Like once we get these updated, you're going to see a few things shift around considerably. And Feltner, look, Feltner's had a couple times this year, you and I know, where he's just burned everybody because he didn't completely implode. But this guy, like, there's nothing to suggest that Ryan Feltner is good at all. Nothing. He has 7.3 ERA at home. I mean, that's just surface level shit here, but still, I don't see anything redeeming about Ryan Feltner in this spot.
No, maybe he's not quite as bad as the masses think he is, but I don't care. Like, he's still bad.
Me neither. Would you say your favorite spots are both Colorado and Pittsburgh right now?
I think so. Yeah.
I think
Bad
so too.
pitching, Coors Field. Now, weather could be an issue there. I don't expect it to be. It's still really early, so not even worth talking about. But it's presuming the game plays. Like, yeah, I think the Pittsburgh side and the Colorado side both look very, very good. Especially at the price tags Pittsburgh's at. Like, no matter who's catching, Grandal or Henry Davis, like, they're cheap. Rowdy Tellez is cheap. Like, this stack is going to be popular. That's the only thing I'm worried about here.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know how they're not.
They have to be. Because what's funny about this whole slate is, like, there might be guys that you don't really want to pick on, like, or that you don't want to roster. Maybe you don't want to get a ton of Kevin Gossman. You only get a ton of Scooble. Excuse me. A few other spots, right? Like Suarez for me. Maybe you don't even want to get to Kyle Bradish, but you respect him. You know he's good. The more I look at this, I'm going, there aren't that many good stack. Like, we have, and yes, this will adjust once we get the Pittsburgh and Colorado thing, but it'll become even more flat, honestly. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 teams looking at the Stokastic top stacks tool. By the way, if you're new to the site, you're wondering where to find it, MLB dropdown, just go to premium data and you'll see it there with the ownership, top stacks, data central, top pitchers, top batters, all that stuff. Look at that. 15 of them between a 2.5 essentially and 3.8% top stack probability. They're all the same. And yes, Pittsburgh and Colorado were changed, but that's just going to drop other teams down into that same range.
Yeah, pretty bizarre. I mean, even the ownership, like, the White Sox are projected to be the second highest owned team on the slate. Okay. I mean, sure, they're facing Ryan Nelson. I get it, I guess, but I think it speaks to what you just said. There's good pitchers on this slate. And then even the guys, like, it's a combination of, like you said, even the guys we don't want to use, Gaussman, Scooble, we don't want to pick on them. And then some of the guys that we want to pick on, like a Tyler Anderson or a Spencer Howard, like, that game's in San Francisco with two shitty offenses. So yeah, there's, like, murky spots all over the board. Simeon Woods Richardson, don't really want to play him. Don't really want to stack Oakland against him.
Not really, no. Not really. It's a weird one. And then, you look at this White Sox team against Ryan Nelson. You kind of wish this game wasn't in Arizona. I mean, I know I saw Sean in there talking about Ryan Nelson getting hit hard against righties. He has. The truth is, though, he has a 150x ISO. The actual numbers are bad. 218 ISO, 462 WOBA, 370x WOBA. But the power numbers against lefties, actual power numbers, 224x ISO. He hasn't been particularly good against them, and the expected rate suggests, the underlying numbers suggest that he should be worse against lefties. It's by far, this is the worst lefty power park, like lefty homer park in baseball. Chase Field's a terrible lefty homer park. Terrible. Look at it on StatCast. It's just truly brutal.
Yeah, and there's no way I'm personally playing the White Sox at owns here. Like, they're way too highly owned. Now, maybe that changes once the Pittsburgh and Colorado, like, whatever has to be dealt with behind the scenes gets dealt with in the tools whenever we find out about Ortiz. But I'm projecting them to be owned because they've been owned the past couple slates, the slate against that Jonathan Diaz, last night against Hancock. People like to pick on Nelson, and they have by far the top value stack, top value percentage on the board. So I don't like them at ownership, but it speaks to how there just aren't that many great hitting spots tonight.
There aren't. The more that I look at this, the more I'm thinking Coors is going, once this is updated, dude, Coors is going to be egregiously high owned.
Yeah,
really
especially
think
the
it is.
Pittsburgh side, always the visiting team, but especially tonight in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, nobody north of 5K is crazy. Still pretty cheap though. Still pretty cheap for Colorado.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know if they have anyone over 5K either.
They have one guy at 5K. I assume McMahon, right? Oh no, Tovar.
Yeah, Tovar's
McMahon's
5K.
48.
McMahon and Black. Yeah, McMahon and Blackman are right there.
And I don't know if Diaz is going to play. So
They're actually more expensive than Pittsburgh if Diaz plays.
yes, they would be. Yeah, definitely. Either way, that game is going to be wildly popular. Let me just run through this with you guys real quick, okay? And you guys like tally them off in your head. Matt, I'll ask you. Okay, so just far as interest level, just a yes or no. If you have something you want to say on it, or it's like a maybe, go for it. But Texas against Castillo,
No,
Houston against Scooble,
no,
Cincy against Peralta.
no.
Okay, that's one where I was wondering if you'd be like, well, Peralta has struggled. Problem is when he struggles with his command, it's
Yeah.
more him just laboring and walking a lot of guys. It doesn't help us all that much.
Yeah, I think they'd probably be the last team I'd stack.
Tampa against Sale.
No.
Seattle against Heaney.
Sure.
Yeah, I have no issues with that. I actually am surprised that they rank that low, but it's also because it's in Seattle.
Yep. Awful ballpark for hitting, and
Terrible.
Seattle has upside, but if they aren't consistent and their upside is there, but Julio Rodriguez has like 4 home runs this year. Doesn't mean he's not going to hit 20 in the next 20 days, but that's where a lot of their upside lies.
Absolutely. Yeah. Fewer runs are scored at T-Mobile Park than any park in baseball. Pretty crazy. But also, you just wonder, like, how much of that has to do with the pitching. From a home run perspective, it's like surprisingly slightly below middle of the road. It's not nearly as bad as Chase Field for lefties, for example. Anyway, LA against Spencer Howard. Like, what do you do with those pitching spots? Tyler Anderson and Howard. I also think winds are supposed to be blowing like crazy, but that's still just hold on. Yeah, 21 mile per hour out to center field. Let's see if can we see if that's reflected in the actual run total?
It's a ballpark that minimizes wins so much. I doubt it is.
I agree. Like, yeah, it's still an 8-run total. So who cares? It's an
I will
8-run
say,
total.
like, I think you could sell me on San Fran here. They've got a bunch of righty power. Anderson's not very good, and they're not getting ownership. I would have a very, very hard time playing the Angels, even though I don't think Spencer Howard is good. They stink against right-handed pitching. Obviously, the ballpark. You could sell me on some Giants here.
I could see that. Zach Gaskins, but it's the dreaded first night in Coors, Laffy. I don't know if I don't know if you're messing with me, but the last couple of times I've said that, the teams have gone on to stink. So, but it's also like, all right, hold on a second. There's a method to my madness here.
Pittsburgh played yesterday in St. Louis.
Pittsburgh played yesterday in St. Louis, day game, right? Because that was Keller Lynn.
Yep.
Day game, night game. I mean, whatever, dude. You're gonna have to play them. That's what I'm saying there. Like, you have to play them anyway. You don't have to. You could do whatever you want, really. But it's just it's weird. You see that shit sometimes. You come in the Coors and Philly did it. I remember talking about Philly, and they came in and just got completely just nothing.
Yeah, I was thinking that the entire time watching it was how you said that.
It's only a few games that I'm referring to, but yeah. Anyway. Whatever. Let me keep going. Okay.
Yeah.
So who's up next? Okay. Baltimore against Suarez.
No, but like they're good enough where if anyone wanted to play them on any slate, I wouldn't think they're crazy. Just not.
I don't think it's
not
crazy either. I don't
They're
love it.
so expensive. It's
Very
the problem.
expensive. In a tough spot, in a bad righty power park, but they're so good that it might not matter.
Yeah.
Philly against Bradish.
No.
Sam Fran against Anderson. You mentioned that. Detroit against Hunter Brown.
I don't hate it, but it looks like the ownership's already there. So no.
Yeah. Milwaukee against Green.
Nah.
This is crazy. Mets against Waldron.
No.
Oakland against SWR.
Nah.
Cleveland against Gossman.
I'd play the Cleveland side over Gaussman, but no.
Kansas City against Gavin Stone.
Same as Cleveland. I'd play them over Gavin Stone, but no.
Right. What about Toronto against Logan Allen?
Yeah, I could play Toronto here. They're just, again, they're kind of over-owned right now too. It won't really matter once the Pittsburgh ownership gets raised because everyone else will be under-owned. Yeah, you could sell me on Toronto. They've underwhelmed, but they still have power in their lineup, and Logan Allen is not great. So yeah, I don't love it, but I could see Toronto being viable here.
Yep. All right, Zach, I told you, man, you got to do it anyway. You got to play him anyway. But probably the only reason you fell for it is because you saw it happen a bunch of times before that, and you're like, oh shit. You know? Who knows? San Diego against Sean Manaea.
Definitely could play them, just given their top stack percentage and ownership. Weather here, also they haven't been great against lefties, but yeah, I could definitely see anyone wanting to play like Tatis, Machado. I don't think Manaea is all that great, so yeah, for sure.
I'm surprised that Atlanta against Zach Littell is getting that much ownership, but I guess there is something to be said about the fact that Littell has not been great lately.
When you say you mean the 5, I don't think they're getting enough ownership. That I'm
no.
really
I'm sorry. I was talking about the top stack probability. It's up there, but also 90 degrees, 93 degrees at first pitch. Definitely something to do with that temperature as well.
Okay, so the top stacks will just updated 3 minutes ago.
Oh, nice.
So Pittsburgh and Colorado are 1 and 2.
Yeah, okay. Figured.
And it's not as overwhelming as I thought it might be, but it still definitely holds. Like Pittsburgh, 15% chance of being the top stack, 14% ownership. That's more in line with how I would see it. It's moved all over though. Like those aren't the only teams. San Fran is now like top 5. That's interesting. To your Atlanta point, I'm not totally sure what to make of Atlanta right now. Clearly they've underwhelmed. They lost Acuna. They've been popular on a lot of DFS slates and have let the masses down. When you peek under the hood though, like their batted balls are still like real, like they're making good contact. Their underlying numbers are good. Like I do expect them to break out of whatever funk this is sooner rather than later. It kind of goes to what you talked about earlier though. Surely doesn't mean it's going to happen tonight.
Right. Yeah. Who knows? Got one more for you. Minnesota against Mitch Spence.
Fine with it. Don't feel strongly one way or the other. They're obviously, after doing this exercise, more in play just because I don't really like many offenses on this slate. So they're definitely one of the top tiers, I guess.
It is an interesting exercise, right? Because we just
I like this a lot.
90% of them were just like, yeah, I'm good. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know what to make of Mitch Spence right now. I really don't.
Same. I don't either.
I don't, from everything I'm seeing, okay, I think this is the easiest way for me to put it on Mitch Spence, is that he's not good, but he's not bad.
That's exactly how I see it too. And again, such a small sample size that like, maybe he is good or maybe he is bad and it's just pitched okay till we find out. But that's how I'm reading it as well.
Yeah, like he's not going to have elite strikeout upside or anything, but he's not terrible. Probably isn't going to give up a ton of power either. What's Minnesota's implied total? 5-2. Yeah. All right. Give me your top 3 stacks today then.
I think Pittsburgh's the overall top stack on the board. I think that I like Atlanta for their upside. And then I'm going to go with San Fran just kind of in the middle. So Pittsburgh, Atlanta, San Fran with Colorado right there as well.
Okay. I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to go. You got to go Pittsburgh. Colorado. The thing about Colorado is like if they continue to get under-owned at cores because they're not good, I'll just continue to play more of them, I think. You know, like they still have a 5.7 total today.
Yeah, I could easily put Colorado in that group. People don't play the Colorado side as much as the other side. And right. I don't even think it's just like insert, Pittsburgh here doesn't get to cores that often. I more think it's like the unknown of what these hitters are in cores when we already know what the Rockies are in cores. They're still shitty.
Exactly. Yep. 100%. But they still have a 5.7 total. It's still the second highest on the slate.
Luis Ortiz is not good. Ryan McMahon is one of my favorite hitters on the slate. I'm with you on Colorado here. Like I guess weather's an issue, but presuming this game is fine, I think I'd be inclined to play Colorado over Pittsburgh at their respective ownerships.
Yeah, look, if you think Vegas makes money by setting bad lines.
Right. That's not how they build all those hotels, huh?
No, right? And someone I watched, the Rockies will score 2 runs today, and so Vegas was way off. It doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that. Top pitchers for me, Peralta and Brown have to be up there. I almost feel more comfortable with Brown than I do with Peralta because he's so cheap. But like I think you just have to roll the dice and hope that Peralta gets back on track today. Obviously Sale at that price point, Castillo against Texas, but I'll just go with I told you guys I go with a contrarian spot, contrarian leverage type pivot, because I just like throwing one of them out there each day that you get a little bit of if he has a good game. Solid. Kyle Bradish against Philly.
Man, I pushed back on you a little bit earlier in the show when you said Hunter Brown is probably the best pitcher on the slate, like price and everything considered. I'm totally with you. Like, just after breaking down all of this, there are good top pitchers on the slate for sure, but not one of them comes with like the, warm and warm and cozy feelings that you would get with a lot of guys in this price range, whether it's the spots they're in, the current form. So I'm going to go Brown 1. I will go Peralta 2 just because of that price. And then it's tough between Sale and Castillo for me. I like both a lot, but Castillo's so much cheaper. I'll go him with Sale a close 4th.
Beautiful. Hey, follow Matt at Fantasy Tips Matt. You can find me at Laffy_D on the Twitters. Shout out to Jordan Klein. The man multi.
Oh, he's back? He's back?
Well, yeah, he just got back like a minute ago.
Okay.
It's crazy. He's pale. Almost scaly. It was he had a tough outing.
I've been there too.
Yeah, he probably felt like Hunter Brown after that Kansas City start. But no, Jordan, that was miraculously fast.
I have to go. I gotta go, bro. It's no joke.
I had to have been like a single wipe wonder there for you to get in and out so fast.
Oh yeah, the quickest one. Honestly, one of the fastest shits I've had in probably like 2 weeks.
I was shocked.
Yeah.
I looked at the screen. I saw it flipping back and forth. I said, wait, back on the controls. It's been 30 seconds. You would have been catching me back here 40 minutes later. Anyway, thanks, Jordan. And thanks to you guys for hanging out. Hit that thumbs up before you go. Remember, link in the description for all of that stuff, be it the Sims lineup generator, Hall of Fame. You want to get in, whether you win it whether you sign up and then win one because you signed up and now the tools are winning you more stuff and a lot more money, whatever you want to do. But we appreciate you guys hanging out. We'll catch you back here for the next one. Peace.